post Degrassi, we had Black Actress. Amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I was sad when it ended. I felt some type of way, especially when Corey found the picture and it had the writing on it. And by the way, that is the funniest scene. But just going back to that series, Black Actress from YouTube, the Issa Rae, it was an Issa Rae production.
Yep.
And you, of course, had a huge hand in creating that and writing it and bringing it to life. Really focusing on the struggles of being a Black actress, and what that's like. I want to know how parallel is Andrea and Corey's experiences within being a working Black actress.
Well, Corey is based on a time in which I felt like her. I wouldn't say that I've ever had maybe the same, but I felt very much like her. And some of the things that she encountered were either a mix of things I'd experienced and things my friends had experienced. Black Actress was just an interesting thought process at all, I guess, because I experienced that otherness in the sense of I did this movie with Nickelodeon, and one of my castmates introduced us to his manager, and when he got to me, he was like, and this is Andrea, and she's the urban one, and I was the only one he had done that to, and so everybody was like, what? But it made me kind of just highlight like the fact that like as a Black actress, if you don't know people of color, you really are just the urban one, like, and based on somebody's script in this movie, in this Nickelodeon thing, it was like, yeah, I really was that. Like, so he didn't know any better. He was being ignorant, yes, but I was like, if you don't know anybody, then this is really what you're gonna think. And every Black actress I knew, it was like this mix. It's like a rite of passage to be a Black actress, like a real sisterhood. You're like excited, but then at the same time, you just want people to see you as people. Like, you're just like, please see me as a person who wants to live a life. And so I had that when I was prior to writing Corey. It was just like I really just wanted people to see me and to not make me feel so like I had to be in this box or that box or this box. And so, but in terms of her insecurity and her self-doubt and her self-deprecation, I 100% felt like that. So that's why I was like, with Corey, I really did want to speed her up to my life. And in many ways, we're always trying to think of other things to do with Black Actress. But it just was it's a massive feat. It's a gigantic show in terms of production. But yeah, I felt like her, but so there's elements of her that have mirrored my life, and then elements of her that are my friends' lives, that are the people I know, people's stories, just things I've observed. The thing is that people don't think is all of the crazy stuff, like anything that's been like really just outlandish is actually like that. I got that from something for real, because it was just like, this is so outlandish. I have to put this.
Give an example.
One that's like just in my brain, like in the first, it's either the first or second episode of the first season, where like somebody spilt water on her in an audition. I had an audition like this where it was way early in the morning, like super early, and it was one of those castings where it was like it was either a callback. It was a callback or one of these like weird ones where it was like, you know, somebody extra was going to be in the room. Usually it's just like kind of casting and whomever, but it might be like, no, this time producer's going to be there, a writer. It was one of those, but it was few people in the waiting room, silent as the day could be. And the one casting assistant was out in the hall, and he just was chatting on the phone, and it was so quiet and so early that it was like distracting. And then he went to put the water dispenser to change it, and he just did it wrong. So all the pressure of this water, like when I say it spilt all over him, like all over, and it was easily one of the funniest things I'd ever seen. But if you've ever done an audition in general, the waiting room is so quiet and so awkward. Like people don't know whether they should talk, whether they should look at you, whether they should, like people don't know what to do. And all the actors, we watched him and nobody even knew whether they should react, like, cause you're like, I'm gonna get wet. I don't know what to do right now. Like, and that was really sparked from like me observing.
I I want to go back to the urban comment that you mentioned earlier, because I found that so fascinating, and it just sparked something in my head. I want to know, did you find there to be any difference working as an actress working as an actress of color in Canada versus in the States?
No, I mean, if anything that I think people don't recognize or know is that the U.S., America in general, has carved out a space for people of color to be on television or even in film. You could say what you want about the quality of the content. You know, some people like Tyler Perry stuff, some people don't. Some people like Spike Lee stuff, some people don't. But nonetheless, there are filmmakers, there are storytellers creating spaces for people of color. In Canada, we don't have that. Like, there's not like a Canadian BET. Like, so all of the work on my resume when I was growing up, except for one thing, was two things, Degrassi and something else, was American work. Like, Natalie Cole filmed in Canada, and Cadet Kelly filmed in Canada. Like, everything I'd done just filmed in Canada. And so, but nonetheless, it was still American stuff. It was going to be on an American network. It was an American team coming and doing it. So as an actor, you don't really think about that until it comes down to actually Canadian content. And I still always complain about this just as a filmmaker, that I still don't think our television and our media reflects truly the diversity of Canada, the diversity of the people, especially within like a metropolitan like Toronto or Vancouver or Montreal. It's such diverse cities. It's like literally some of the most diverse cities in North America in general. And I don't think you could watch anything that I think genuinely shows what that looks like. And so I think it's a little different as a black actor, because you're still going for the exact same type of roles that any American actor is going for. They just happen to be filming in Canada, that's all.
Yeah That's crazy.
So it's, and I guess then that's why typically I think you see a lot of actors of color come to the US to work, because you're looking to advance your career, yes, but you're also looking for certain opportunities. Like, I think just a prime example, I'm like, we don't have there's not like a BET for Canada. BET is just here. So in terms of just trying to find the space for yourself, like, you don't always just want to be fighting for the one best friend or neighbor or, you know, those type of roles. You're like, I sometimes want to be the lead of something, and I think that only opportunity so far in my experience comes here. Same idea with black British actors. It's a very similar culture in London to Toronto in terms of the people of color there are typically from the Caribbean or from Africa, and so they don't have just like a Southern culture there, and so they only know being first generation or second generation immigrants, and that's a different experience. But then you're like, well, I want to be seen, so you're like, well, I'm going to come to the US and try and adapt, basically. So
playing in with that, being an actress, and then just as you explained, and coming from that background of where it's not that much of a representation in media and film of our community in Canada, coming here and finding that space for yourself, especially in the world of entertainment where there's so much rejection out here, trust me, I know. What are your self-care tips on how to survive it all?
I don't know, you know, I think for one, it's forever changing. I think if you had a certain tip that you may have done last year, I don't think you should just immediately expect that it's going to work in 6 months or another year, because you're evolving as a person. And there's sometimes when you're going to be able to go to an audition and just be like, cool, this was that audition. As soon as you leave, you completely forget about it. Boom. And then there's other times when there's a role that you just really, really want. And if you don't go further with it, it's like a crushing blow, and that will set you back. And I think it's okay to experience those setbacks. It's okay to realize that you're still a person and you're still like evolving and going through this journey. But I think as an artist, as an entertainer, you have to be fully aware of the fact that you're constantly problem solving. You're constantly thinking of like how to get ahead. It's not always a matter of these people are right or all these gatekeepers are blocking me from my goals and my dreams. It's like, well, what do you really want to do? I ask people that like all the time, like, what do you like actually want to do?
Right.
And then whatever your answer is, it's like, okay, well, what's stopping you from being able to do that? Especially it's like if some people are like, oh, I want to write stories, or I want to, you know, make scripts or something like that. And it's like, well, what's stopping you from being able to do that? Oh, well, I don't have the money for this, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. Then it's kind of like, okay, like, you have to be figuring out how to get around all of these things, especially actors, right? Like if it's like, oh, I just want to act. I always think that's the most generic thing somebody could ever say and doesn't make any sense. Like I think you need to be so specific yes. Because there's acting on commercials, there's yes. acting on stage, there's acting on television, there's acting in a park. Like there's so many ways to act that you have to then say really and truly, what do I mean? What would make me happy? What kind of schedule am I looking for? What kind of income am I looking for? Because I know people who are really happy and successful booking 5 commercials a year.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. Every year. Yeah. They're actors. They are no different to the person who's on television exactly. doing the same type of work, right? Like, so that's why I'm always like, be really specific and then think of your things that you want. And so then the rejection will feel a little different, because we all experience rejection constantly in this business. But if it's rejection for something you didn't even want in the first place, or it's not even towards your trajectory, it's not even towards your true goals, then it's not really rejection, right? Like it's more like making room for the thing that you actually do want. And so why are you even going to take on the thing? Why are you even going to take that on, right?
That specific nail that you were trying to get to.
In reality. So you're like, why am I even bothering with this?
Yes.
Like, and because that's a real thing in terms of just taking on emotions, like just deciding, like, they said I wasn't good enough, and now you're like, oh, I'm not good enough. You're like, but who is that person? Like, are they giving you a check? Like, are they doing anything that's going to, like, enhance your life? Or are they just some person with an opinion?
Another thing that I love about Andrea Lewis is that you've transcended the acting world, and you've now gone into filmmaking. Mm-hmm. And coming from the world of acting, you know how important it is to have that representation of people of color and to tell our stories. And that's exactly what you're doing in your filmmaking.
Thank you.
I want to know what sparked specifically that initiative. And who are your inspirations when you're looking through that side of the camera?
Well, I always knew I was going to do that, like my whole life. I always knew I was eventually going to produce and write. And I think that's because I was a storytelling kid. I was like just the kind of kid that always told stories, and any kind of creative writing that was in school, I like went above and beyond, and it was always like really intense, and I'd like picture the entire thing. So I knew that eventually that was where my career trajectory was going to go. But when I was a little girl, like there wasn't YouTube, so you just didn't know like what that meant as a filmmaker. I only saw like big stars eventually become producers, and so that's just naturally I was like, okay, I guess eventually I have to just become a big star in order to get certain stuff done. But from a young age, I really admired, basically, if I saw your name multiple times in the credits, that would be my thing. Like Debbie Allen, or Reese Witherspoon was an actress that, like, I just remember reading about her having a production company and just reading about the work that she did. Drew Barrymore, and so that's when I kind of started to think in that way and think about my own work. YouTube was like, I guess it was a venture in the sense of after Degrassi, I started doing YouTube content because I just felt frustrated as an artist. I just felt frustrated in the sense of just auditioning. I never felt like that. Like, and nothing is wrong with that. Because I know some actors, that's all they want to do. They do not want to write a script and produce something. They're like, I don't want to do all this work. I want to just come and play. And that is perfectly fine, and I commend anybody who knows this is where they want to fit. But I was like, but for me, as an artist, that just wasn't going to be my path. And so starting YouTube content kind of taught me the ropes of producing in that way, because you are the person, like, you have to make the content and you have to set the schedule and you have to see how often and how not and all of that kind of stuff and time, and you have to learn it constantly. But now I'm kind of the same in terms of the people that I love and admire. It's like I literally love Donald Glover just for being an artist that does pretty much anything he wants. And not in a crazy way. Like if you really kind of look at it, it's all really very much him, and that's why I look at him as like, yeah, he's a storyteller. He tells a story any platform that he can, whether it's music or it's film or it's television. He's just gonna tell a story. And so anytime I see people like that, I admire them. Doesn't matter if I like it or not. Yeah. I'm still like, I know it's a big feat, and I know that it's a very specific path that you are on and you are after. And so doing that, it felt very natural to me. Being a producer, I always tell people, I'm like, I actually enjoy being a producer, because being a producer is very hard. It's not any easier, especially for actors who think, I'm going to produce my own web series just because I want to act. And I'm like, it's not no easier. This doesn't get better over here. It just is now different. And so I actually like it, though. I like the stresses of it. I like seeing something come to life. I like the beginning and how we're going to do it. I love that stuff.
And you've done a phenomenal job of that, taking every aspect of not only you, but of the different people that you've come across in life and our community. You've just done that so well, and things like Black Actress, things like the Token movie, said the film festival's killing it. The Black Men doc that you did. And I know that you're also working on another documentary about beauty gurus.
Oh, yeah.
What can you tell us about that?
Well, I always call that, like, that's my big baby, because it's a gigantic story in terms of just the history of Black beauty and Black beauty entrepreneurship, and where it has landed now with Black YouTubers. And truly, I guess the idea really came to me mainly because I went to an event with YouTube Black, which, for people that don't know, YouTube does like just specific events for content creators of color, and they did this one, and they invited maybe 150 creators, something like that. And when I looked around the room, it was almost like a school dance. So I was like if there was 150 people there, 75 were beauty. And it was just fascinating to me to see that when they thought of Black content creators, a large majority of them were beauty girls. And in many ways, these are not just women who just put on makeup every single day. Like, they really are editing and filming and lighting and constantly learning about equipment. They are constantly upgrading their stuff. Yes. They're not just kind of like these little ditzes trying on makeup. Like, they're real business women. And so myself, being a television actress, I was like, I learned about beauty from being on set. I really did. I learned it from actually working with makeup artists and getting to see this. But I'm like, but I'm fortunate in that regard. I don't know what a girl that was my age did when they were 13. I have no idea. I'm like, but now you have it's all at your fingertips. It's like you could type in anything and learn how to braid and learn how to put on this and learn how to that and learn how to this. And I was like, and these women are really changing people's lives and changing their own lives, like very much so. So that's kind of what sparked the idea. But it's a gigantic project that has multiple parts and multiple places and multiple people. So that's all I can really say. But but I'm very excited for it. I really like it, and I really like I like the story. I guess for me as a filmmaker, I don't intentionally make things about people of color. I just like people of color. I really do. Yeah. I like Black women. I like Black men. I like Black people. So when I'm thinking of stories, I just naturally, that's where my mind goes. Token was the same. It was not like we were trying to break somebody's neck with a race story, but it was just like, we just like Black kids, and you like your own story, and you want to tell a story of tokenism, and you've experienced that. And so that's typically how my stuff kind of comes about. And that's, like I said, I was just fascinated with these women and the work that they do and the influence that they have, including on myself, much less on somebody younger or a little kid, or even older women, right? Like, that literally learn how to beautify themselves and how to love who they are based on what these women are doing. And I think when I think of Black beauty, we've always done that. And so, yeah, it's this big, gigantic project that I hope to finish this year, hopefully. But this is the thing. Documentaries are these interesting projects because they don't necessarily have a start and a finish date. You kind of just want to get the best story told, which is why you'll see somebody be like, oh, this is my documentary that we were working on for 10 years or 4 years. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. A documentary takes time. And so
it's a story in real time.
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing. And that's definitely what this has been for sure.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more of this interview, be sure to head on over to macondemand.com and check out the full, uncut, uncensored version. Trust me, it's a good one. You don't want to miss it. Also, be sure to check out some of our other clips on our YouTube page.